Hey everybody, Alex Kazor, SteelersDepot.com, back to do another analysis of whatever that was. Pittsburgh Steelers lose 33-30 to the LA Chargers on Sunday Night Football despite a 23-7 lead, and they blew it. And all the fears about this team come rushing back just like that, and this AFC North got real competitive real fast, and Steelers have not secured anything. And with a tough rest of the schedule to come, you're going to Oakland, and yeah, Oakland's Oakland, but you're playing out there at their place, and the Steelers historically aren't good there. You got the Patriots week 15, Saints week 16, Bengals week 17, who again aren't going to have Dalton and all that, but it's still AFC North matchup, chance for them to potentially play spoiler in some fashion. It's going to be tough. So this one was a killer. You could weather one of these losses, Denver Chargers, you could deal with it. Really couldn't deal with both. You wanted to get one, and you didn't get either. And it's you can blame the refs, and yes, the refs were atrocious tonight. And I rarely try to talk about the refs because that is low hanging fruit, and I care about scheme and I care about the things you can control much more than I do about the refs. I think everyone can see when refs make mistakes, and I'll let other people kind of vent about that stuff. But while the refs were objectively terrible tonight, Steelers were just as bad, unfortunately. And you combine those two factors, it's gonna be tough to win a game. So let's talk about the things you can control. We'll touch on the refs maybe at the end here. But starting with the defense, the biggest issue, and I've preached this since before day one, since before the draft. I have an article on Steelers Depot before the draft that said, "Where are the playmakers? Where's the splash coming from?" And we're seeing the issue now. There are no playmakers. There is no splash. You got one turnover in 3 games. Let me repeat that: one turnover, 3 games, and that came on the final play of the game against Jacksonville, where you didn't really need a turnover. It was good to get the exclamation point and not let Bortles even get a throw off. But essentially, you have no turnovers in 3 games, and you're 1-2, and you barely won that one against Jacksonville, the crazy comeback with Ben diving over the goal line. So you just don't have playmakers. The secondary doesn't have ball skills. I mean, Hilton can do it a little. Hayden can do it a little, but everyone else is just non-existent. Edmonds, Davis was horrendous tonight. Cody Sensabaugh, awful against Mike Williams, and the couple chances he got to make a play didn't. You're just not getting it, and so the secondary is not creating splash. You're not getting a lot of sacks, or but the first sack of the year came tonight with Edmonds. You're not getting turnovers, forced fumbles. You're not even getting forced fumbles that are recovered by the offense. You're just not making any sort of splash at all. So that's really bad, and that's where it's got to start for me. And I don't know how that changes going forward this year. It doesn't magically change. The talent's not going to somehow start playing a whole lot better. You kind of are who you are at this point. So you look at the draft and free agency, you start thinking about getting a ball hawking right cornerback would be probably one area you want to address. Safety's dicey because obviously Edmonds is your first round pick from this past year, and Davis is in a weird spot. But yeah, you got to get playmakers, you got to get splash, you got to find maybe some more help at inside linebacker. I thought Fort played really well tonight, and you saw him get the bulk of the time and do a nice job. So curious to see where the team heads off with him going forward. But still, you got to get playmakers. You got to get guys that can create turnovers, pass rush that can get home, walk out close. Dupree had a little success. Adene had some success as well, limited action. But that's where it starts. This defense has to shorten, feed the field for the offense, take possession away from the opposing offense. That's how they were winning some other games early in the year. The Tampa game, the Carolina game, you were creating some of those splash plays. But that's been the concern with this team, is that it's just not there. They're just not creating that, and I know I've harped on it a ton here to start this video, but that's the big problem right now, and that's one aspect of this team I don't know how it gets better. With some of the things offensively, or maybe some of the penalties, you can say, well, if this gets cleaned up and you fix this one thing and change this aspect of the team, you can fix it, and that's fair to say. But the splash, the turnovers, I don't know. I think again, at this point of the year, either you have it or you don't, and the Steelers definitely do not have it. So that's the big elephant in the room that's been sitting there all year long, ever since you lost Ryan Shazier, who was that guy, no doubt about it. And that's just the biggest disappointment. But still, giving up some big plays against the run in the second half after great success in the first half. I thought for the past 2 weeks defensively, sticking with them for another minute, they've gotten some stops on first down. They've made some plays there, and then they give it all back on second down. Happened against Denver. There was an instance where I think Denver in the second half was in a 2nd and 14. They get a 12-yard run to make it a 3rd and 2. You had multiple instances of plays like that, and same thing happened tonight. You get a stop on first down, 2nd and 10, 2nd and long. I think after the Hargrave sack, you had 2nd and 16, and you're giving it all back on 2nd down. So while the Chargers were a great first down team, and Tomlin pointed it out, and I don't know the numbers on it, I'll have to check, but it felt like the Steelers defense did a pretty nice job on first down tonight. They were doing equally a bad job on 2nd down and 3rd down a little bit as well. So that's the frustrating part with this team, is that they're creating some stops on first down, some negative plays, but they're not finishing. They're just giving it all back, whether that's a penalty or a catch and run or screen pass or whatever the case is. And that's been a recurring theme these last 2 weeks, and that's going to change going forward. But yeah, going back to the defense, that's the big issue. Not creating that splash, just not making those impact kind of plays, and it just hasn't been there all year long. And that's obvious. You guys know that. You don't need me saying that, but I don't mean to toot my own horn here, but I have been saying that really all year long. And while the defense has improved in some areas, the pressure's been consistent. The tackling for chunks of the year has been better. Today was obviously, Sunday night was obviously a rough one. But, you've seen improvement in some of those areas. Some schematic stuff that, reared its ugly head tonight. But again, on the whole, you've seen some schematic improvement. But the lack of turnovers and lack of splash has been consistent all year long. And that's troubling. And I'm being kind when I say that. Offensively, I mean, you do put 30 points on the board, but you felt like, like the Denver game, you're leaving a lot on the table. Ben missing Hunter, wide open. Ben throwing a pick right outside the red zone, on the red zone fringe. 2 awful plays from Ben. Can't have that. It's Ben Roethlisberger. It's future Hall of Famer. How are you throwing a lollipop to Vance McDonald that gets undercut easily by Derwin James? How are you missing Justin Hunter, who's a mile open? I mean, there's nobody who's dogged Justin Hunter more than I have. And I mean, I've done it repeatedly, but this was not his fault. You got an overthrow on a smoke screen earlier in the game, and then you just flat out miss the easiest touchdown in the world. And Hunter gets hurt. Hunter gets hurt on that play. He's out for the game with that, I think, separated shoulder, they called it. And that's points on the board. Chris Boswell misses an extra point. That stuff that kills you. This team the last 2 weeks has not been able to finish, and they're going to have to if they want to beat good teams. Chargers are a good team. Obviously, like I said earlier, you got the Saints, you got the Patriots. You hope you can make the playoffs, and you're obviously going to face every team's a good team at that point. So you got to finish drives, you got to create turnovers. That's how you win in the NFL today. Defense is so tough to play. I get that. That's why defenses that are successful, unless you're like a top 2 defense, maybe you're Baltimore, Minnesota, a little bit of the Rams, that can kind of lock teams down. If you can't do that, and most teams can't, you got to create that splash, and that's nothing like that for the Steelers. And offensively, you have to be able to finish. And while the red zone offense has still been strong, you're 3 for 3. You made some big plays there against a stingy Chargers red zone defense. So credit there. Like I said, you missed those opportunities. So the red zone fringe pick, the Hunter overthrow that I believe led to a field goal, and the Boswell missed extra point, and ended up having big implications later in the game. So that's where this team's at right now. The penalties, the ones that were legitimate, they're gonna hurt you. You get the offsides on the would-be missed field goal as time expired, and you do it 3 times, and it just sums the game up. Some special teams, woes, and you get 4 special teams penalties in the return game. You get Jalen Samuels trying to recover a block punt, and thank goodness the Steelers jumped on it, because if the Chargers would have recovered that, which it almost felt like they did, it would have been Chargers ball on a first down, because that's a change of possession. So, I don't know what's going on there. You do get the block punt, which is great. Boswell hits from 48, but just a lot going on there. And yes, the refs, the missed false start was brutally bad. As bad as the missed false start that got the one ref fired against Cleveland earlier this year, also against the Chargers that went for a touchdown, funny enough. The block in the back on Brian Allen, I think, was clear as day, totally uncalled. That was on the Des King punt return touchdown for 73 yards that tied the game up after the 2-point conversion. So yeah, that stuff's bad, but even with those factors, Steelers still should have won this game. I think you have to start by pointing the finger at yourself if you're a Steeler player right now and saying there are so many things that we could have done better to win this game, and we still could have complained about the referees, but walked away with a victory and saying we overcame that. So that's brutal. I don't even know where I want to go with any of this. It's just the injuries are piling up. I mean, I know Mike Tomlin had a pretty lengthy list of injuries post-game. We don't know the severity of them, but you got Hunter, Connor, Cameron Kennedy, the long snapper, had to gut it out with, I think Tomlin called it a knee sprain. That probably would have put Vance McDonald in the game. I think I'm not sure, but I think he's the backup long snapper. So you got those guys down. Chick I think got hurt again. I don't remember what the exact nature of that injury was. Switzer's in concussion protocol. So now this team's been pretty healthy all the year, but might be going in the wrong direction there. So depth and those kind of guys are going to be tested, no doubt about it. The last thing I want to say, I'm going to keep this point brief because the video is already pretty long, and I'm going to have an article to show the visual because it's going to be a lot more impactful showing you guys these plays than me just talking about it on an audio medium. But just Keith Butler, man. I mean, this stuff happened early in the year. You get matchups with linebackers on receivers, TJ Watt on Sammy Watkins on back-to-back plays against KC. Week 2 is the first one that comes to mind. That was really frustrating to watch, and you had similar stuff tonight. I mean, I get the Chargers move Keenan Allen around a lot. It's hard to travel with that guy every single play because he plays in the slot so much, and Joe Hayden's not a guy you're going to really put in the slot too much if you can help it. But first drive, I think 3 completions were against linebackers, Dupree and Fort. The first pass of the game was a completion to Keenan Allen, working on Dupree for a first down. The worst play call, though, you guys probably already know what it is. 3rd, 4, 3rd and 5, whatever the Chargers' final drive. You got John Bostic in the game. I don't even know where Bostic came from. He hadn't played at all this game. Ford had gotten I think the starter played the majority of the snaps, and rightfully so. It was a good idea. But you got John Bostic in the game, matched up on Keenan Allen. And yeah, it's kind of a zone coverage, and I don't even remember the whole play right now. I haven't started the article yet, so I haven't gone through it all. But I don't know how you have Bostic on Keenan Allen in this one. And they just throw a little, quick out route, move the sticks, gets him in the field goal range, they win the game. In that situation, you gotta bring something better for your Keith Butler. I mean, you can't expect that matchup to happen and expect to win. And that's squarely on Keith Butler. This stuff's gotta stop. It's ridiculous. And it's costing this team games. I know that people kind of rag on me sometimes about Danny Smith, and I don't you yell at Danny Smith more, and I think I criticize him plenty, but a lot of the issues on special teams are more individual than scheme. They're guys making individual mistakes. They're guys that are in positions to win. They're just not making the play. But some of the issues with Keith Butler, they're schematic problems. They're guys that just aren't going to be allowed to succeed. Linebackers on Keenan Allen, one of the best route runners in football, obviously a receiver. When you're matched up against a linebacker, that linebacker has no chance. I'm sorry, I don't care if you're Fort, Dupree, Watt, definitely Bostic. You got no chance. You're screwed. Those players are not being put in a position to win. And that's when it falls on coaching. That's when it falls on the coordinators. You can directly point and say, don't care what the technique or the call or the coverage was. This guy's got no chance. He is at an obvious disadvantage. The Chargers know it. It's 3rd and 5. The game's on the line. They're going for Keenan Allen, their top receiver, who's schooled this secondary all game long. And you got John Bostic on him. And so Allen finishes the game. 10 catches for, I think, $148 and a touchdown, which was that crazy ricochet where Sean Davis is taking out his teammate. But that stuff's got to stop with Keith Butler. I don't even know where to begin with that. I'm going to have a lot of examples in an article going up around the time you're probably listening to this video on Steelers Depot. But that is super frustrating, unacceptable. All things wholly within the Steelers' control, and you screw it up. So, I know Keith Butler has kind of, bounced back and I think done a better job from where they were at early in the year. But that was terrific, and maybe one of the worst games he's called all season long. So I don't know, guys. It's going to be tough. I'm not going to try to overreact to a situation. Hopefully, you can get a win against Oakland. And, I know this team is capable of competing with guys like teams like the Saints and the Patriots. So I don't want to be too doom and gloom because you know where this team can play and has played. And, you saw this team go up 23-7 in this one. And the 7 was the false start, miscue. So I don't want to overcorrect, but it's going to be tough. No question about it. No margin for error anymore. No margin for error. Got to get the win against Oakland. You got to at least beat one of New England or New Orleans. You got to at least beat one, both for seeding and winning the AFC North, but also to prove that you can beat those kind of teams in the playoffs. That you can go in to New Orleans or take New England at home and knock one of those teams off. You got to have that signature win, especially with Carolina fading. Win doesn't look as impressive now as it did before. So it's gonna be tough. We'll go back. We'll watch the game. Vent away, a lot to vent about, a lot to be right about when you vent. We'll see what happens, but big concerns with this team, finishing on offense, taking care of the football, the defense. You just don't trust them to create splash, and that means the offenses are going to win. It might take a little while to do it. That's what happened with the Chargers tonight, but offenses are too good, Too many good quarterbacks, too many good schemes for offenses not to move the football. Defenses have to be able to create splash, and they're not. And the other quick thing was Steelers on third down, start the game 3 for 3, get off to a hot start, you finish the game 0 for 7, and you fade away. That's been the theme with this Steelers team, and I mentioned this after the Denver game. There is a super strong correlation between third down success and this team's success or failure. The first 4 weeks of the year, third down 28th in the league. The next 5 games, you go 5-0, you're first in the NFL on third down. The last 3 weeks, you're probably 25th or worse on third down. You're sitting there around 30%. During that 5-game win streak, not including the Jacksonville victory, you were at 62.5%. For the first month of the season, you were again around 30%, and you struggled. So, very clear correlation in my mind of third down success or failure and team success or failure. That's got to turn around too. That's also very frustrating, especially for a talented this offense can be. So, I'll shut up. It's been a long video. It's frustrating. Every right to be. The Denver loss I could live with, but this loss, no way. Not at all. Not even close. So, that's where this team's at. They'll go to Oakland next Sunday against at 4:25, and we'll talk about it when we talk about it. So thank you guys so much for listening, whether you're doing so on YouTube, Steelers Depot, or following me on Twitter at Alex_Kazor. Thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.